cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. On the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, tremble death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. He shall return in robes of white, the blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. So good to me. Don't you think where I would be if not for you, if not for you? As far as lights reach from the depths, as far as east is from the west, so far your grace has carried me. Until I see you face to face, until I last upon my race, remind me you're not finished yet. Hallelujah. Your love is devoted, like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain, beyond the horizon, with mercy for today. Faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledge yourself to me, and it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips.
Should be live.
And then it's coming live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's good. You should be able to speak.
Oh, so we're starting right now?
Yeah. Should be
Okay,
live.
Introduction.
It's better to repeat. Yeah, so some books like that.
So Annie, how was your summer?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Tulsa? No.
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 Norman.
Oh. Warmer.
Yeah. It's pretty warm.
Desert kind of almost.
Yeah. It's kind of dry.
Oh
The
yeah.
summer wasn't that bad.
Hello everybody. I hope you see me all right. Maybe 이쪽으로 오세요. 네. I think it may be good for us to 여기 테이블 오실게요. So I think maybe we could show people around this table. We have 6 of us here. There's Adrian, and then Rebecca, Annie, and we have 2 teachers with us, and Deacon Lee. There are 2 Deacon Lees. They're both professors. First one is a main person. It is Seokchun Lee, Deacon Seokchun Lee. And then we have a lady sister. And Lee Tian Lee. We have no idea how this is working. So good to see everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. And so it's more informal compared to last Sunday. I feel much better too, because last Sunday I was speaking to just empty air, you know. So now we can talk a little bit too. Okay. We're going to have a very simplified worship Sunday service, and we're going to read from Genesis 37, and maybe from verse 1 through 11, and maybe Annie could read it. I'm sorry I didn't ask you beforehand, but wouldn't be too hard.
Genesis 7,
37?
37.
37, 1 through 11. So if you feel comfortable, you can take that's what you like, but up to you.
Genesis 37, 1 to 11. Jacob lived in the land of his fathers in the land of Canaan. He was like a generation of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Korah and Zipporah, his father's wife. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Hear this dream that I dreamed. Behold, we are binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my shaft arose and stood upright. And behold, your shafts gathered it around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us, or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars are bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him,
What is this dream you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind.
Amen. Thank you, Annie. I'm glad to be having this time together like this, and I'm thankful too that we have two people who are going to be helping with Cornerstone from now on this semester, and semester after that, a man and a woman, you know. So it'll be helpful. Genesis 37. This month we're studying Genesis 37, and for two of them they already heard this message in Korean just a while ago. So I hope they don't doze off. It'll be okay. But I want to talk about dream that Joseph had. There is a man named Charlie Paddock, and I don't know if you heard of it before. No, he's an Olympic runner, and he got a gold medal many years ago. I think almost 100 years ago, and he went to Cleveland High School in Cleveland, Ohio, in early 30s, I think, and he went there and spoke to high school students, and at the end, he said, "You know, we may even have an Olympic champ right here in this hall." And then afterwards, a young, skinny black young boy came up to him and very shyly he said, "I'd give anything if I could become a championship runner someday." And then Charlie Paddock answered him warmly. He said, "You can, son, you can. If you make it your goal and give it your all." Sounds kind of familiar, right? You know, you hear statements like that. But that man, his name is Jesse Owens. And maybe you haven't heard of his name. I have. But in 1936, he ran, I think, 100-meter dash, and he got gold medal. But not only that, he broke the world record. And in 1939, he got 4 gold medals. That's pretty big accomplishment. Anyway, he broke the record in front of Adolf Hitler. And so Hitler was enraged. Why? Because he was a white supremacist. you probably know, and so he was mad that a black man broke world record. But Jesse Owens said in his autobiography, "We all have dreams, but in order to make dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort." So, do you agree with that? I won't tell you what the answer is right now. Lou Holtz is a famous football coach. He defined it more carefully. He said about dreams, number 1, he said number 1 to 5. He said number 1, decide on your dreams and goals. Number 2, reinvigorate your thinking. How you think is everything, he says. Number 3, expect to win. Develop a plan for your success. Number 4, take action. Pursue your dream plan with courage and determination. Number 5, make it happen. Never, never, never give up. I think you're kind of familiar listening to something like this. And those are good lessons, right? You agree? But that kind of dream is different from Joseph's dream. Now, think about how that is different. Now, in the Bible, there are many different kinds of dreams. Many dreams, God appears and tells a person what to do, gives warnings. For example, when Mary and Joseph went to Egypt to escape Herod, God showed up in Joseph's dream and told him to go back to Israel. Things like that. We see several instances of that. But this dream that Joseph had is a different kind of dream. How is it different? First of all, it wasn't telling him what to do. It was a dream of his future. Right? Future. It's a very important dream for not only Joseph but for nation of Israel. Jacob name becomes Israel. So that's when the nation was born. But so that dream is different from what Jesse Owens talked about, right? Think about how that's different. One big difference is when Jesse Owens talks about dream like that, he's talking about dream that he started. Right? It's his own dream. But Joseph's dream is not his own dream. God gave him that dream, right? So that's different. And so when you and I, we talk about our dream, what's more important? Not our dream. You may have dream. Going to Purdue, you may have different dream. Your success and things like that. What you want to be. Things like that. But dream that God gives you, that's not your dream. Now Jesse always talked about his own dream, but Joseph's dream is God-given dream. So the big difference. Which is more important? And I would say, as a Christian, God-given dreams more important. That's worth living for, but not my own dream. Now let's look at the background of the story of today. Most biblical scholars agree on this approximate date. Jacob was 97 when he returned home to Israel, Canaan, from Haran. And when he was 97, did you realize that? He was a pretty old man, very old man, right? 97. And Isaac was 157 at that time. Yeah, so pretty old. Now Joseph was a boy of 6. But today's story, how old was he? 17. Right? 17. So it's been 11 years. And at this time, Jacob was 108. And Isaac was still alive at age 168. So that's kind of a new thing, even for me. I didn't know that Isaac was alive at the time, but Isaac was alive. And Isaac died at age 180, so he was still alive. But Joseph was 12 when his mother Rachel died. Now Rachel was the woman that Jacob loved. She's the only one he really loved. You know that, right? So he had 4 wives, 2 wives and 2 concubines. First wife, her name was Leah. I feel sorry for Leah too, of course. What did she do? But her father just put her in there. So she became the first wife, And then there were 2 other concubines called, they're in verse 2, Zilpah, Bilhah and Zilpah. They're not too important in the Bible. But anyway, Jacob's family just started out that way. It's very hard to be happy and peaceful. You know why? It's because Laban's idea. Laban was at fault, right? Laban, he made Jacob unfortunate, unhappy in his marriage, his whole family. And then all the children, they were, they went along. So the biggest problem is that, God didn't design us to have one man to have 4 wives. Or the other way, that's less often the case. 1 wife and 4 husbands, you don't hear that case too much, huh? But anyway, 1 man and 4 wives, that's not God's intention, right? Not even 2, because if you go against God's design, anytime you do that, you're going to be unhappy, So this is one particular case, but you could generalize it in everything, we need to live according to God's design. And so Jacob could have blamed his uncle Laban, he's the one who made my family like this. But so Jacob was deceived by his uncle Laban, but we gotta admit that Jacob was the one who deceived first his brother and Isaac, right? And so Paul says in Galatians 6, whatever you sow, that you will reap. That's the law, And now verse 3 in today's text says, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Parents should never favor one child over another. But verse 3 says, Jacob loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. You know, maybe you could understand how Jacob could have done it. He had 12 sons. And Rachel was the one he loved the most, right? And Rachel had two sons. What are their names? Joseph. The next one is Benjamin. We call it Ben. Benjamin. Anyway, Benjamin was a lot younger. But anyway, because he loved Rachel more than all the three wives, in turn, he loved her sons more. So can you imagine, in your family you've got four different mothers. Four different groups. Oftentimes churches have different groups too. That's not so good. Right? In American families, we oftentimes see different children of different fathers, different mothers. It's easy to happen, but that brings so much sadness and troubles, conflicts. So when you get married later on, cross it out. When you make an oath, you commit yourself to marry just one man or one woman, right? Who doesn't want to do that? But of course, when it gets hard, you're tempted to do that. Anyway, Joseph, his robe was robe of many colors. But a scholar called Ross, he states it was more than a coat of many colors. It probably describes a sleeved coat that reached to the wrists and ankles. Far more than being a nice gift, this tunic set Joseph apart from the brothers as a favored one, probably indicating that he would receive the inheritance, much more inheritance, and more that meant leadership and double portion of inheritance. And so it was real, not just he didn't like to spend more time with Joseph, but he made him leader among his brothers who are all older than him, right? So that is going to bring about conflicts and jealousy. Right? So when you have children, you should never do that. Now, so personally, I have two sons. I don't want to tell you much about it. Deacon Lee also has two sons. But one thing I want to do is when it comes to inheritance, so you may not have too much, we will divide equally, 50%, 50%. So I think, I don't know, maybe I think it's a good idea. We treat them same. And so older brothers of Joseph, they already had problem with Joseph and probably with Jacob too. Now, that is a dysfunctional family. Dysfunctional. And then the research has shown that dysfunctional families often produce more dysfunctional families. So broken families, their children likely will have more broken families. And they said a surprising number of who divorce one alcoholic spouse will then marry another who is also alcoholic. And children who have been abused often grow up to be abusers themselves. So that's what we observe. So Jacob's family, naturally, if you leave it alone, it's going to have other problems on and on. But going back to our story, Joseph has dreamed. He has two dreams. First dream is the content is in verse 7. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed, your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf. So Joseph had this dream where his sheaf stands in the middle, and then his older brothers, they're all bowing down before him. If you hear a dream like that, would you feel good? I wouldn't, and just creates more jealousy and hatred. No one wants to be down and be controlled, ruled by someone. And even if I have a dream like that, it would be wise to keep it quiet, right? But the relationship is always strained, and even on top of that, telling them dream of that kind. And how do they respond? They become resentful and said to him, "You are going to be king over us. You are going to rule over us." And so, Bible says they came paid in more. So notice there they exaggerate. You're going to be king over us. And Joseph didn't say, he was king. And just they were bowing down. So people who listen, tend to exaggerate and make problems bigger even. But Joseph doesn't end there. He sleeps some more. I don't know how many days after, but he has another dream. And what was the second dream? That's in verse 9. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream. And this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bow down to me." So now Benjamin is included. And who else is included? Sun and moon. That seems to refer to his father and mother. Right? Now there's a problem that I didn't mention before, but at this time I said I told you that mother probably died, so the moon's appearing. So scholars have problem with that. What should we do with that? But anyway, second dream, Joseph tells to his father too. And Jacob, he gets mad. And what does he say? He says, so he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And so Jacob is saying, "What are you talking about, my son?" And also here we too here also see he exaggerates too. Are we going to bow down to the earth before you? That wasn't exactly what Joseph said. And then verse 11 says, "And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind." So father's different, right? His brothers, they envied him, they became jealous, they hated him more, I'm sure. But his father, father's going to be different. Even though his father rebuked him, he thought about that, what the dream was. There are two dreams. They're same, basically same, almost, right? And then so he kept the matter in mind. New Living Translation says, his brothers envied and hated all the more, but his father wondered about what the dream meant. International Standard says, kept thinking about all of this. So, when you look at different versions, it gives you a little more descriptions of it. When I read that, I thought about John the Baptist. In Luke chapter 1, we see angel of God appearing to Zacharias, who was a priest in the temple. And angel of the Lord appears to him and says to him, "Your prayer is heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son. You shall call his name John." Elizabeth was a very old woman, very old. She wasn't supposed to be able to have a child. But angel of the Lord tells him, "You're going to have a son." She's going to have a son. And so Zacharias, he didn't believe the word. And angel Gabriel said to him, now we know that angel of the Lord is Gabriel, by the way. And so Gabriel said, "Because you didn't believe what I said to you, you will become mute until John is given birth." It's amazing, huh? So that really happens. And so he becomes unable to speak. But then when John the Baptist was given birth, his mouth releases. And so people heard about that, and they said, to themselves, what kind of child will this be? So, I just remember the same kind of response. So Jacob too, when he heard of his son Joseph's two dreams, he rebuked him, but he still wondered about what the dream meant and what his child will be. So, remember, dreams, there are many different kinds of dreams. I think most dreams, we don't have to pay attention to them. Because I heard that more than 90% of dreams that we dream, first of all, we forget most dreams. But dreams that we even remember, 90% or more, they're just something that happened to us before, and we think about it. The subconsciousness, it just comes up. But when sometimes though God gives you a dream, I think usually it's made clear to us, different. And in this case, two dreams that are same basically, I think if that happens, I would pay attention 2 times or 3 times. So usually when same dream occurs twice, it means that it's been settled in heaven. So it's God is going to make it happen. And same thing happened with Pharaoh later on, chapter 41. And Pharaoh dreamed in his dream that he saw 7 fat cows, right? And then a little later, 7 skinny cows, and those seven fat cows, they ate those skinny ones. And then he had another dream. The second dream was almost same. And the second dream, he sees 7 heads of grain that came up. They were plump and good. And then he saw another 7 thin heads springing up after them. And those same thing, those plump, fat grains, heads of grain, ate those 7 other ones. But the same meaning, right? And so, you know what that means. The Egyptians would have 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of drought will follow. And so Joseph understood what that meant, But I'm just pointing out that Pharaoh had two same dreams in a row, And so that was changes history. But another thing to realize is that when God gives such a dream, not like go there, go do this, or warning, not that kind of dream, but such dream that Joseph was given, such dreams, usually when God gives you a dream like that, it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be fulfilled within 1 or 2 years usually. I'm not going to share my dream, but because I had that dream like that, so I understand the more, So God gives you a dream. Some people know what their dream is, like Joseph saw in his dream. Some people don't, and it may not make too much difference. But usually it takes a long time. And in Joseph's case, if you calculate, he was 17 when God gave him 2 dreams. And you know how many years passed? 22 years. Now, 14 years, look at it more carefully. He was 17, and then like 14 years passed, and then he becomes prime minister. But then, when he was 39, then his brothers come. And so it took him almost 22 years. So when God gives a promise to a person or a dream like this, it's long time in coming. Abraham was same too. Abraham's case, it was 25 years before his dream came true. I oftentimes mention that, why didn't God tell Abraham it's going to be 25 years, you're going to be 100 when that child of promise is going to be born, In my mind, in our minds, that sounds like the way God should do it, and He doesn't do it that way. He makes it unknown, If you study carefully, that's interesting. Why do you think He does that? I don't have all answers, but I think one thing is, He wants to see us live by faith. Faith means not only not being able to see, faith means not knowing the future. You know, if Abraham knew he's going to be 100 before the son was born, he wouldn't have made mistake. But then he wouldn't have to live by faith. Right? The same thing with Joseph too. You know, Joseph, it took, as I said, 22 years. 22 years was very harsh and difficult, right? Very hard. You know how he was thrown into dungeon. You know, at that time, at that point, I think he thought he was going to die. What do you think he thought about the dream? He might have thought dream's done, you know, but he didn't lose faith. Right? And you know, I think about this as I read this, that his brothers, they were going to kill him, and so they said, "Now, what will the dream? What will come of the dream that you had?" You know, I think they really thought that they could just cancel the dream. You know, they may thought God may have given the dream, but I'm gonna make it not happen. And do you think it was possible for them to stop the dream from coming to pass? No. Yeah, I think both would be right answer. I think they couldn't have, but at that time they could have just you know, use a hammer maybe or a stone and you know hit Joseph with that stone. They could have killed him easily, and so I think they could have and they could not. You know, both answers probably could be said to be true. So you know, I want to mention a few things. That the first thing is that it's going to take a long time, and you know, God could give you a dream, and don't expect that to happen so quick. And you know, so many times young people do not realize that, and what happens is that they think that it's going to happen right away. You know, but it's not going to happen right away. If we expected it to happen right away, there will going to be a lot of problems, right? You know, like he would say his brothers, you know, you got to bow down before me. Something like that. I'm your leader. I'm going to be your leader someday. You know, even that, saying that would create a lot of problems, right? It's going to take a long time. So oftentimes, usually I think it's good to keep quiet about the dreams that God gives you. And then one thing about this dream, the lesson that we should get from this is that dream like this that God gave Joseph, he couldn't have fulfilled himself. God just doesn't expect him to fulfill that Joseph to fulfill it. Right? You got to realize that. If God tells you something, you're not going to fulfill it. If God promises something to you, you know, just by definition, promising, who's going to fulfill the promise? The person who gave the promise is going to fulfill it. And so, you know, it's not a very simple thing. And when I was young, like your age, actually your age, I wish someone had given me teaching of this kind. But no one, just about, I never heard it. So when God called me into ministry, you know, I didn't know how to go about doing it. I thought I'm the one who has to fulfill it. You know, so that creates a lot of problems and anxieties. It's God, you know. But I heard a man named Derek Prince, and from the radio, and he spoke only 50 minutes every day, and I recorded his message, and I heard it. He teach about. There's one thing that he said. He said usually when God promises a person something, usually the promise is something that sounds impossible. And then after the promise is made, and he's going to run into a lot of obstacles and problems and walls, you know, and it will look really impossible. And then we'll have times of difficulties, troubles, usually many years. And then all of a sudden, God comes through and makes it happen. See how that's different from Jesse Owens' dream, kind of dream? Jesse Owens and all the people like that, we understand. But that is so different from dream that Joseph had. How to go about that being fulfilled, totally different. And basically, how it is different is that Jesse Owens' dream, it was his dream. He defined it, and then he fulfilled it. Gave his all, never gave up, a strong will, until he dies. kind of, and that's I don't discount that entirely. But God, the dream that Joseph had is different. That God gave him the dream. What kind of dream is worthwhile for us to live after? And not my dream, my own dream, but God-given dream. So what is God-given dream? And how is it fulfilled? God fulfills it. God fulfills it. And when I say God fulfills it, it sounds like spectacular, miraculous. Not necessarily. Just see how that is fulfilled. If I was Joseph, and if I try to fulfill it myself, I thought about what would I have done. I didn't think too much about that, but I thought I could try to become a politician, mayor of the city maybe, and try to go up, fulfill it that way. And would he have been successful? I doubt it very much. But now, how did God fulfill it? Very strange way, everyday life kind of way, through using hatred and jealousy of his brothers, who were going to kill him. And somehow Judah comes and says, let's sell him to Ishmaelites. Think about this. Ishmaelites, how did they happen to be there? Was it coincidence? No, when you think about it, it wasn't coincidence. God sent them there. Nothing's coincidence really. And so, you probably know the story how he's sold, he's taken to Egypt, and Potiphar bought him, and then in his household, he becomes recognized, but then his wife accuses him of rape, and then he's put into jail, where he sees the wine taster, and then interprets his dream, and then 2 years later, think about that, 2 years too. 2 years, long time, and the wine taster, he forgets about Joseph until Pharaoh has a dream, the dream that I mentioned to you, and no one was able to interpret it. So think about that, Joseph, how could he forget me? He probably have thought that in jail. 2 years passed. Was that coincidence? No, 2 years had to pass. For the timing to be right. Only God knew that. Right? So look how God engineered it, And so God's intention, could be seen. Joseph, when Joseph was 17, he may have thought, oh, I'm to be in the center. I'm to be ruling over my brothers. But that wasn't the point. When we were immature, we could see it that way. I saw it that way too. When God called me to ministry, I thought, oh, I'm going to be somebody, Yeah. So, but years passed, and I realized, oh, that's not the point. I'm not meant to be center of anything. Only God is to be center. So we got to realize that. So there's a lot to learn here, But yeah, I want to end now, and that is, to make it applicable to us. We got to realize that, I used to think that's Joseph. He's a very famous, well-known servant of God. But me, it wouldn't happen to me. And you may think that way, maybe, I'm nobody. But God doesn't differentiate, like that. Even you and me, our ordinary life is engineered many times. And nothing is out of coincidence. And child of God, And so, but maybe Joseph was used, he was made well-known, famous in the Bible. Maybe you and I were not like that. But is that important? The Bible doesn't say you gotta be a big person or famous, used, But what Bible says is in 2 Timothy 2:19 on, it says, be a vessel used honorably. That's what we are to be. And let's just turn to that just for a moment. 2 Timothy chapter 2, 20. Let me read that. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay, some for honor and some for dishonor. See, there are many vessels, some made out of gold and silver, some of wood and clay, some for honor and some for dishonor. But verse 21 says, therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from the latter, he will be a vessel for honor, sanctified and useful for the master, prepared for every good work. I think that should speak to us. What are we to become? Some preachers I heard a long time ago, be someone, be a big person, make a big vision, that's not what the Bible seems to say, it seems to me. But here it says, it tells us we should be a vessel for honor. In order to do that, it says sanctified and useful, be useful. And so, when I think about that in Joseph's situation, what did Joseph have to do? What did he have to do? He didn't have to be creative. Oh, how am I going to do this? He didn't have to do that. God was the person who did that, right? And what was Joseph's part? I think his part is always, as same as always in the Bible. Our part is believe what God said, trust Him to do things. He's the person who does things. We're the vessel, always. We're the vessel. Christ is in me. We're the vessel. We just are used. Here is a vessel, but we want to be a vessel of honor. What does that person have to do? Trust Him. And we see in Joseph's case, most people who are in Joseph's situation, I think most people would really be angry at his brother. Those brothers, they were going to kill me. They failed. They didn't. And they sold me. And so I was slave and in jail. Most people would just have resentment and hatred toward those brothers, right? But let's just wait till I get out. Or we see a lot of people like that nowadays, But Joseph, what I see is we don't see anything like that. I don't know exactly what happened, but he doesn't have hatred. And at the end, he forgives them. He looks out after others. Even in jail, he looks at those baker and wine taster, and he observed that they were sad in good companies, and so they watch after them. And so I see that. I think that's the way to keep us clean. As Joseph, his mind wasn't filled with hatred and anger. And so same with us. We need to trust God, depend on Him, and have the right mind. Clean mind. That means not being unthankful, complaining, or hating anyone. Unforgiveness, resentment, things like that. That's our part, what we should do, to have the right mind and be always trusting Him and depend on Him. And whichever way He leads me, I will follow. And that's the kind of, that's the way we want to be. Okay? Let's pray. Father, we thank You for this time. We spent a while, and as Joseph, through difficulties and troubles and betrayals, he kept himself clean. We want to keep ourselves clean. We want to become vessels of honor and to be used of You, Lord. We are vessels only, but You are the person in us who works things out, who initiates, and who leads us. Help us to have that mind so that we could be used of You in the days to come. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Thank you. Over to you.
So this time we'll go into some announcements. So we have a prayer night this Friday on 9/11, and it will be through Zoom as usual. It will be it'll start at 7 p.m. So keep a lookout on like Discord, Facebook, Instagram for the link as it gets closer. We'll be going over some topics that we think are important to pray about right now. And for newcomers, for those of you who are new to Cornerstone, look at our socials for another announcement coming early this week. We're gonna do something really fun with you guys, and hopefully you guys are down. And if you're not connected to any of our socials, Discord, Facebook, Instagram, reach out to any one of us, either in the chat or just like if you find us on Facebook. We'll be more than happy to get you connected to those. And I didn't make the slide for the Lord's Prayer, but we're going to do that right now. So if you could bow your heads with me and recite it. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. That's the end of our sermon this week, so see you guys later.
Thank you.